Last lesson, we covered the basics, context, clarity, criteria. Today, the first specific prompt pattern, role-playing. By the end of this lesson, you will understand why assigning the model a role, senior reviewer, beginner, lawyer, child, changes the answer you get. You will see the same question answered 4 different ways. And you will know when role-playing helps and when it is just decoration. What is role-playing? It is telling the model who to be. You start your prompt with, you are a something. A senior code reviewer. A junior developer. A lawyer. A teacher. A child. The model answers in that role's voice, with that role's perspective. Same question, very different answer. Here is the same question, asked 4 different ways. Explain what a Python decorator is. As a senior developer, the answer uses proper terminology, gets to the point. As a patient teacher, the answer uses an analogy, walks you through it. As a 5-year-old child, the answer is a sticker on a toy. As a formal technical writer, the answer uses words like constitutes and higher order. Same model. Same question. The role entirely shapes the answer. Same question, 4 roles, 4 completely different answers. Why does role-playing work? Because the model learned how different voices write. Senior developers write one way. Patient teachers write another. Children write another. When you assign a role, you bias the prediction toward the patterns of that role. Not magic, just pattern selection. It's exactly like walking into a library and asking the librarian versus walking into a law firm and asking the lawyer. Same question, different expert. When should you use role-playing? When you want a specific kind of answer. Need a code review? Use a senior reviewer. Need someone to teach you something? Use a patient teacher. Need legal language? Use a lawyer. Need creative writing? Use a poet or a novelist. The role biases the answer toward the voice you want. It is a precision tool, not decoration. Here are practical examples of roles that work well. Senior Python reviewer, review my code for bugs, style, and readability. Patient teacher explaining to a complete beginner, explain how HTTP works. Senior technical writer, rewrite this error message to be clear and helpful for end users. Each role sets a useful bias. The model now knows what voice to use and what to optimize for. Roles to avoid. Roles that don't add information, you are an AI. The model was already going to be an AI. Roles that conflict with the task, you are a lawyer, write code. The model gets confused about which bias to apply. Roles that are stacked, you are a senior developer and also a junior tester and also a product manager. Pick one role per prompt. And decoration, fancy roles with no real effect on the answer. If a role doesn't change anything, drop it. Roles are a precision tool. Pick one per prompt. Make it count. Here is something behind the scenes. Providers send a hidden system prompt before your message. That prompt often starts with, you are a helpful assistant. Your role-playing is the visible version of the same technique. You are extending or overriding the default. In OpenCode, you can set your own system prompt in the project_agents.md file, which we will cover in a couple of lessons. Worth emphasizing, one role per prompt. Multiple roles confuse the model. If you want multiple perspectives, run multiple prompts. Ask the senior reviewer. Then start a fresh session and ask the junior tester. Then start a third and ask the product manager. Compare and combine the answers. That is how you get multi-perspective analysis out of an LLM. Roles control more than just expertise. They control tone, formal, casual, friendly, strict. They control style, concise, verbose, technical, plain. They control vocabulary, domain-specific or general. A senior reviewer is necessarily terse. A patient teacher is necessarily verbose. A lawyer is necessarily formal. When you pick a role, you are picking all 4 at once. Roles shape expertise, tone, style, and vocabulary, all at once. If you remember one idea from this lesson, a role biases the answer. It is a precision tool, not decoration. It shapes expertise, tone, style, and vocabulary, all at once. Pick one role per prompt. And if a role does not actually change the answer, drop it. You will see this instinct develop over time. A practical library of roles for code tasks. Senior reviewer, for code review, gets you blunt, technical feedback. Patient teacher, for learning a new concept, gets you step-by-step explanations. Performance engineer, for optimization, focuses on speed and resource use. Security auditor, for security review, focuses on vulnerabilities. Junior developer, for explaining basics simply, useful when you're new to a topic yourself. Now writing tasks. Technical writer, for clear documentation, focuses on precision and structure. Copywriter, for punchy marketing copy, focuses on persuasion. Lawyer, for formal, precise language, focuses on accuracy. Novelist, for creative narrative, focuses on voice and character. Editor, for critique and improvement of a draft, focuses on what's not working. Role intensity matters. A light touch, explain like a senior developer, gives a gentle bias. Medium, you are a senior developer explaining X, gives a stronger bias. Full commitment, you are a senior developer at Google with 20 years of experience, gives the strongest bias. More detail in the role equals stronger bias toward that role's voice and perspective. When does roleplay fail? When the role conflicts with the task. A lawyer writing poetry gets you awkward formal verse. When the role is too vague, you are an expert doesn't bias anything specific. When the role is too narrow, over-specialized, the model loses flexibility. When multiple roles are stacked, confuses the model about which voice to use. Pick one specific role and commit. Quick recap. Role-playing is telling the model who to be. Same question, different role, different answer. Use one role per prompt. And roles control more than expertise, tone, style, and vocabulary too. Here is a small exercise. Pick a question you know well, maybe from your work or hobby. Ask it 4 times with 4 different roles. Senior expert. Patient teacher. Curious child. Formal technical writer. Compare the answers side by side. Notice which role gave you the answer you actually wanted. That role is the one to use next time you have a similar question. Coming up next, one-shot and few-shot prompting. Role-playing biases the answer with a role. One-shot and few-shot bias it with examples. We will see how showing the model 1 or 2 examples of the format you want is often more powerful than describing it. Then we cover interview me, and then memory, skills, and /commands. Roles bias the answer. Pick them deliberately. Terms you now know. Role-playing, assigning the model a persona to bias its answer. System prompt, the hidden instruction providers send before your message. Tone, the emotional register of the answer. Style, the density and formality of the answer. 4 terms. You now have a vocabulary for what role-playing actually does. Role-playing, precision, not decoration. The first of 3 prompt patterns. Thanks for spending this time with me. Next, we learn one-shot and few-shot prompting, biasing with examples.